Hello everybody, my name is Nermin Mollaoglu. I own Kalem Agency. It's a literature agency and we also organize a literature festival in Istanbul like we are having here. I'm quite happy to be here. And this is my writer Ece Temelkuran. I'm sure you read the biography in the catalog. I will leave the biographical information that you can read from the catalog. But I will give some secret information about her. Okay, for example, I like the story about her name. So her name is Ece. It means queen in Turkish. So you got one Turkish word. And she was born in Izmir. I think some of you have been to Izmir already. And Izmir is famous for the beautiful girls, actually. So she's from Izmir. She got very good education from Izmir High School, and then she became a lawyer with diploma, but she hasn't practiced as a lawyer at all because she got journalism sickness in her blood before the graduation. And she's a journalist, very well-known journalist. Actually, I think, like as a female reader and caring about what's happening in Turkey. She's one of my female journalists in Turkey to follow. And I think like 1 million people follow her in Twitter, like me. 2 million?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, I have to check it. So you can check it out, what is the real number now. And we are good friends. Usually agents and writers are not good friends. And of course we have fights. For example, I didn't like when she told me that this is going to be the title of this novel. I didn't like it at all before reading the book. So it's Women Who Blew on the Nuts. And then I read the book, and I liked the title. But why did you choose this title for this book, Ece?
So she decided that she embarrassed me enough, now I can talk. Hello, thank you for coming, first of all. Is this working? This one?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm going to speak in English, I don't know Bosnian. To start with, I'm no more a journalist. Since 2010, I guess, I'm only writing novels. And this, we'll get there anyway. The title of the book, I don't know what is in Bosnian. Žene something. Yeah, it's kind of impossible. But it is the same. So this is a verse from Quran, Holy Book of Islam. In Quran, in Surah Talaq, it says, be aware of those women who blow on knots. Which actually means, be aware of those women who are doing witchcraft. Because in old times, the spell was done by women, by women. They were tying the knots, the ropes. And they were praying on these ropes. And at the end, they were blowing their breath on the rock. So I thought, obviously, Quran recognizes the strength of women and their breath. So there must be some sort of magic in the breath. And then I thought, why don't we write a book about this? This was the idea. I'm of course telling it very roughly, because the first layer of this book is a road trip. It's like a Thelma and Louise with a better ending. And the second layer is about politics and how women coming from complicated countries survive in political turmoil. And the third layer, maybe, is about reconstructing the concept of mother and reconstructing in a way that we find courage from our mothers and we are encouraged by our mothers. We are having more courageous mothers, so we don't need even the love of God. At the fourth layer, which is the very core, I think in a very philosophical, it's a bit philosophical level, it is, who am I? It's the ultimate question. It is, who am I in changing, shifting political context, changing reality? So yeah, this is the long answer to your question,
Yes.
my dear.
We will come back to the novel, but some more information about Ece. Her favorite color is green and or dark blue, but now she's wearing black. I think there's a reason for that. You know, do you feel black about something?
Well, this is a question, unexpected question. No.
No. Okay, you have hope.
This hope. This is a country who has been through war, so I think my words will resonate more, as it would, more than they would in London or in France or whatever, in Norway. I'm wearing black since, I don't know, 1 year, because I think I don't have hope anymore, or more likely that I don't believe in hope anymore, the word hope. My country is going through hard times, as you very well know, and people are asking each other and themselves if there is any hope. And this question became almost addictive to people. And it's kind of making me angry, to be honest. Because it is something like people asking too much about this. Is there hope? Is there hope to each other? You see? So it makes me feel like saying, what if there is no hope? What are you going to do when there is no hope? I think the word hope is a slippery word. You cannot hold on to that word. That's why I prefer determination, stubbornness, and so on. And I think, you know, if there's a connection to your question, black represents that, determination and, you know, stubbornness.
Ece, you are from Turkey, and I'm sure that everyone is expecting you say something about what's happening recently in Turkey. This is a literature festival. It's not the New Left agenda here, but I think we should talk about what's happening very briefly in a literary way for our audience.
It's a context that you can. It's a country. It's very hard to put this country in a literary context, at the moment at least. The other day, I was reading on Twitter this article about, which was published in Haaretz, in this Israeli newspaper, leftist Israeli newspaper. It was about Necip Mahfouz, who is an amazing poet. And it was about Necip Mahfouz never wanting to be a political figure, just a poet, but then he ended up being the symbol of Palestinian, you know, freedom movement. So I think writers, poets, literature people are helpless if they're coming from such countries where politics is like in your blood and there is no life beyond or after politics. So maybe because of that, maybe because I was born to a political family already, I always looked at things in a political way, and my approach to things is political. In every country where this book is published, they try to make it this, you know, female she book, and they do the cover, you know, accordingly. They, you know, represent it accordingly. I don't mind, because that's the first layer of the story. There are women, and there are really she subjects as well. But then, actually, it's a very political book. You know, there has been, in the last 50 years or so, there has been this allergy of politics. It's because, this was an ideological stand. You know, neoliberal powers thought that if we don't talk about politics, there will be no socialism at all, and they're going to survive the capitalists and so on. So there was this myth of being non-political. There is no such thing as being non-political. Everything you do is political. Reading a woman magazine, which is completely out of politics, is a very political stand. And it's another very good political stand, if you ask me. So, coming from Turkey, I know that I cannot, you know, escape the questions about the current issues. So I memorized this nice paragraph to tell about Turkey. It is very vague, and it doesn't really tell much. Because right now the situation is quite delicate. And moreover, it is still happening. Everything is shifting on, by the minute, in a way. I've been critical of the government, political authority, of any kind, from the beginning of my adult life. And I've been critical of this government as well. But then I think one thing should be emphasized. I've been reading international media a lot lately, especially since 15th of July, the night that the coup attempt happened. And there is this understanding of things on international media which needs correction. I've been seeing arguments that tells this coup was fake, everything was organized, it was a staged act, and blah, 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 blah. It wasn't a staged act, it was a real coup attempt, and it was horrifying, it was savagery, and it was barbaric. The footage you all see are the footage that we saw on the first night. Whereas on the following days, we saw other footage showing us that this coup was organized very well, and that it was real. And it was more than a coup, actually. It was an entire attack, a full-scale attack on the entire nation. So Turkey is a very polarized country. I mean, I am sure you understand me when I say polarized. This country, your country, has been through a civil war, so you know what polarization means. So Turkey is an extremely polarized country. Nobody likes nobody. This was the situation before 15th of July. Whereas on 15th of July and on the following days, for the first time in a decade, this nation had a consensus that this was a real coup attempt, and it was very dangerous, and this should not be repeated at all. Our government is elected by 50%, and we have a president you all know. And there are serious criticism against our president on the international media, and I know all of that. But then this situation is something completely, entirely different. And we are all trying to cope with it. And it is very important to note that my country, Turkey, has been through a lot in the last year. Each month we were subjected to massive attacks of terrorism coming by ISIS. And it was, I always thought that this word trauma is for like Norwegians or Denmark people who have the luxury to be traumatized. Whereas, this is the first time I should say that my country has been deeply and entirely traumatized. We learned in one night what war is. Even those of us who not know anything about politics, does not know anything about, what's going on in the country, they felt it with the sonic booms, with the, shootings and so on and so forth. And one more thing should be emphasized. In Turkey, army is a very, very strong entity, and it is almost sacred to Turkish people. There is a reason to it, because the country was founded by the army. So therefore, you cannot question the army, you cannot, whatever. It's not legitimate to question the army or its actions. And the army had strong hand, always, since from the beginning of the republic, in administration. And it was amazing, spectacular to see all these people, some of them with their pajamas, standing against the tanks. This is extremely unprecedented for Turkey. Ordinary people would never resist Turkish army. So this was the first time that they resisted the coup. Am I boring you, by the way?
No.
This is like, it goes on forever, actually. So yeah, and one thing should be, maybe we'll talk about that later, the 1980 coup and but yeah, this was, we just had a 1980 coup, military coup, which was extremely successful, so successful that nobody remembers the coup anymore. It's as if it erased the entire memory of a generation. So yeah, and there was no such resistance then, and there is a resistance So, this is the last sentence. Whatever you think about the coup, I think one should pay attention to the resistance of people. That was something historic. You know, the most basic sense of the world, it was historic.
Ece, one of your characters in the novel, Amira, is complaining, or she hates actually the people who feel tourists to their own city. I mean, she doesn't like it. But for you, I think you are not tourist at all. You are like the citizen of the world. You were born in Turkey and you live in other the countries, and I don't think that you feel tourist. Am I right? You know, you always find something to
Get
write.
myself in trouble.
Yeah, you are very question the problem for everyone, and very in a good way.
Thank you very much. This morning someone interviewed me from a newspaper. I don't know which one was that, and she asked this basic question, like, how did you find Sarajevo? Kind of. And I gave this very political, painful answer. I think she didn't like the answer at all. I like the countries who've been through war. It reminds me of faces with scars. People think that, some people, to be polite, don't ask about the scars of other people. But when I meet a person, and if he or she has a scar, I directly ask about the scar, because the story is there, and people, I think, feel like you don't see them unless you see the scar. See? So, and the stories, scars come with stories. They always come with stories. So, these cities, Sarajevo, Beirut, Cairo, whatever, all these complicated cities who have been through a lot, they have stories. So, and if there is a story, I cannot be a tourist to a story. And, lately I was thinking, the world map is different to me now. I don't see the names of the cities, but I see the name of women, my friends, in every city. It's like Mariam for Cairo, Amira for Tunis, Ambara for Beirut, Brussels, Annalise for Brussels. And all these women have certain weaknesses, therefore they have stories. And I cannot be a tourist to friendship either. So yeah, I always find a connection with my own scar, most probably, with my own wound. And when you talk about wounds, you cannot be tourists anymore.
Do you blow on the man? Do you blow on the man?
Well, you know what? English title should be changed because this blow has, connotations. Anyway, so this is the idea of the book. Women, in general, blow life while they're breathing. They blow life to men, to relations, to children, to anything. Therefore, this world is constructed by the breath of women, by that magic. So, and I think there's one sentence in the book which can be translated as something like, a woman cannot leave a man. A woman does not leave a man. A woman leaves a graveyard. You see? So, yeah. I don't want to use the word there, but yeah. Like all of us, actually.
It's a quite long book and when I was reading it 3 years ago, I learned a lot about the geography also. Turkey, people think that Turkey is very close to the geography of this North Africa. But I don't have many friends who know where is Tunisia. I'm sorry, I forgot. I don't have many friends who have, where is Tunisia or where is, Amman in the geography. Really, they are from, after university education. They are out of this geography. And when we read your book, we learn about also this land which has so much blood. And one of your characters says that blood is connecting people, generations, and she is very sorry that governments think this is the only glue to connect the generations. And what do you think about that?
Balkans is very important. Balkan countries are very important to Turkey. I'm sure there are millions of PhD theses about this, how losing the Balkans affected the collective memory of Ottomans and therefore, following generations and so on and so forth. The first time I went to Zagreb, I understood why people are so sorry about about Balkans, and whenever this word comes up, the Balkans, they feel, I don't know, touched. Because I thought, okay, this is why, because it's beautiful here. Women are beautiful, men are beautiful, wine is beautiful, everything is beautiful. So when you lose Balkans, you lose the connection to Europe, where the civilization lies. This is very important for Turkish collective memory. And I can speak about, for hours about that. But then, this is sort of ironic that this idea of West is the place to go, West is the place to turn to, is reflected on our maps. When I was growing up, we had the identical map in each class in Turkey, in entire country. And this map was, the map on the left there was, Balkan countries, and on the right it was Arab countries, and in the middle, of course, the biggest country of the planet, Turkey. But then, there was this bizarre thing. All the Balkan countries were in different colors, like, yellow, blue, green, red, and there are lovely rivers, incredible cities, and so on. Whereas when you turn to the right side of the map, it is grayish yellow. It's a, color, color. And then there are hardly cities. It's like a desert. Look at that. It's like camels and dirty Arabs. You don't even have to, look at that part of the map. So this is interesting. Although we have the same connection with that part of the world as well as we had with Balkans, but maybe even more because of the religion and so on. So I really thought about this map a lot, and then I really wonder why we have this racism against Arabs. There is huge racism against Arabs in Turkey, and assumptions and so on and so forth. This is why when I went to Beirut, I was shocked. Beirut is just like Izmir, my hometown, almost identical. And when I came back, I told my mom, I was telling my mom, and my father was there as well. And, Beirut is just like this, it's like Izmir, and these, Arabs is not like Arabs you think of, these Gulf country Arabs and so on and so forth. So there are different kinds of Arabs. I was trying to tell her what's going on in Beirut and what kind of countries are those, the grayish-yellow countries. So my father came into the kitchen while we were talking, and he said, Lale, that's my mother's name, Lale, you don't know, there are contemporary Arabs as well. So this people, because I always thought I couldn't see Baghdad before it was vanished. And most people will think now that they didn't see Sham, Damascus, before it was over. And it's going on like this. There are many cities, like Timbuktu, that I would love to see, but it is almost impossible, and so on and so forth, because there is a war. It's sweeping all the cities and all the generations. So, yeah, this is what's going on in the map. The map is turning to reality, this grayish yellow, where there is nothing, I think.
Your book is published in other languages, and you've been there for interviews, like festivals, And what is the reaction, when people read your book? What do they say to you?
They love me, of course. I'm lovable. I wrote, you know this story, so I'm telling you.
Yeah, please go.
I wrote this book in a very difficult time for me personally, and I was going through some political, issues. I was fired, I was in Tunisia, Tunisia was happening, there were Islamists surrounding my district, torches in their hands, shouting Allahu Akbar, trying to burn down the whole district. I was at home, at my place, at my apartment in Tunis, alone, and there was curfew, you cannot go out, blah, 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 blah. And meanwhile, there was this hatred thing against me in Turkish political circles and so on. So, the only thing to do was drink some wine, a lot of wine, and write a story to survive. So I wrote this book to survive. I think, therefore, in every country it is published, there are women who are telling me that they feel, I really don't like this word, but stronger. I think the book reminds the people, not only women, but people in general, how resilient one can be. And personally, I don't believe in the word strength or strong woman. I believe in resilience, and this is all of us. This is what all of us do anyway. I think, art has a duty. Art has a duty to be resilient and hopeful in a way. And I try to do that. Art has no luxury to be hopeless and to say it's over, we cannot do better. That's why I chose art, because that is the truth of humanity, that you cannot really completely give up. You are not allowed to. Whereas when you're dealing with reality as a journalist, it is very easy to say, okay, it's over. There's no way out from here. But that is reality. That is just passing. The truth that stays after that is that it goes on. Life really goes on. And the question is, are you a part of it or not?
Amira says, hopeless is the biggest sin, so we should have hope, at least in art. I know that you don't like talking about as a strong woman, like the role model, but I know many Turkish people, they find you as their role model. But what's your role model can be? I mean, I don't want you to give me names, but what is the role model?
Role model?
Yeah.
I never understood this role model thing a lot, but there are people I admire. There are people I learned from a lot. I think my mother. My mother gave birth to me, and she's an artist, she's a painter. And she gave birth to me, and my father is not the best father, let's just put it that way, very politely. And he was absent in my brother's birth, that kind of thing. Anyway, so she stopped painting when she gave birth to me, and she didn't paint for 10 years. And I was 10 years old. I remember one night she started painting again, and she saw that she cannot paint anymore. She cannot draw. Her hand is not there anymore. She lost it. The whole education that she got, the art education and so on. I remember her putting cotton plugs in her ears, crying constantly for hours, and trying to draw. And now she's, of course, internationally known artist and whatever. But I remember that moment, crying and drawing. So I think that would be something that have been something inspiring to me.
Which your character is inspiring for you more? Which character in your novels?
In my novels. Do you know this guy, Theodore Zeldin? Any of you? Okay, he has this great book. I hope it's in Bosnian. If not, in English, it's super infinite history of humanity. He's a thinker and he's a historian. He was old years ago when I know him, and he's still old. He doesn't really age. He lives in Oxford. He's an amazing person. Whatever. So when the book was published in French, he read the book, and he said, "It is great that you deconstructed yourself and made it characters out of yourself, 4 characters." I said, "Oh, this is the first time I hear that," and he was surprised. Like, it is so obvious from the book. I think I'm impressed with the idea that these are all me, and these characters, when they come together, becomes something far bigger than me. But then most people who read the book, they are inspired by the character Madame Lila. Madame Lila is an extraordinary old woman who do crazy things. And this is the ironic part. Every character in the book inspired by a real person. Amira, there's a real person called Amira, and she's really a belly dancer and a journalist who lives in Tunis. There is Mariam, her name is different, but she's academic in Croatia, in Cairo. And journalists can easily be identified with me, whereas she's not, whatever. But then Madame Lila, she has no real person that inspired her. So yeah, it is a combination of these women, and I think this word is so cheesy, but the energy that they create when they come together, that is inspiring to me. Well, they saved me from committing suicide, so they should be inspiring.
But how long did it take to write the book?
It's 1 year.
1 year. And a lot of researchers, you live there.
Yeah. I do research. I did journalism for 10 years. I was this very serious journalist, asking questions to people from Venezuela to India to, I don't know, anywhere you can think of. And when I turned to novelist, I didn't stop, doing the journalistic part of the novel. In Beirut, I read all the newspaper that was published between 1960 and 2006, for instance, to write my other novel, which is called Banana Sounds. And for this one as well, I did a lot of journalistic research. But I always thought that people would not take me seriously when I was telling them, I'm going to make up a story, completely bullshit, but then, I'm going to ask you questions. But then I realized that it is much better when you're a novelist, because when you're a journalist, they give you, these quick answers. But when you say that I'm making up a story, they go crazy. They tell you a lot of stories. And this is the time I learned that actually you can make people talk only by not asking questions. So yeah, there's a lot of journalistic stuff in that, as well as in my other books.
You mentioned about the Sons of Bananas. Shall we talk a bit about this book?
Yeah,
That was your first novel.
Yeah.
And after being a journalist, coming up with the fiction novel, how was the feeling?
It's great. Banana Sounds is in Croatian, actually, right? It's published in Croatian. I wrote it in Beirut. I stayed in Beirut for a year. Lovely city. And it's about a Filipino caretaker and a Syrian janitor. And many other things, of course. So yeah, and Beirut is a character in the book as well, as I said. And that's my first novel.
And then the second, and then let's talk about the latest one.
All right. Okay, it's the most boring one, but you have to read it.
Why?
Why? Because otherwise you cannot understand Turkey, and this is how ambitious I am. I wrote this novel about 1980 coup. Well, beside the joke, actually I'm serious. This whole...
Ece, can I interrupt? Before this novel, there were some books about this coup in the 80s, but there was no everyone reads a novel about this coup. That was the first novel. People were talking about it, and they were not talking about what happened really in 80s. So, sorry to interrupt you, but it was a very special case in Turkey because there was no fiction novel about telling the story, real story.
Okay, this is 1980 coup, is the mother of all reasons why we messed up everything. So, this novel that I wrote is called Time of Mute Swans. and it's about two kids trying to protect swans from the top generals of the military coup. Funny book. I heard this story, which is, I think, interesting. I'm sure there are stories in Bosnia like that as well. This is bizarre. In 1980, when the coup happens, it's also the year that the first time the swans who are migrating from Siberia start stopping in Turkey. Yeah, in 1980. First time in history. And then after 1980, every year, each year at the same time, swans come to Turkey from Siberia. Beautiful, no? And then this thing happens. They stop coming all of a sudden. You know when? 2013, when Gezi uprising happened. And then since then, they don't come. So, isn't it poetic? So it felt like to me that these ones were trying to keep a memory alive, you know, about resistance, about what really happened in Turkey. And when the masses went out on the street to reinvent the word of resistance in 2013 in the summer, they thought the swans, okay, our job is over. They now know. So after you hear such a story, you of course write a novel. And there's another one. This is, you know, the real stuff. These are real stories, which I think better than any fiction. In 1980, the top general of the coup, Kenan Evren, he lives in Ankara. In Ankara is the center of Turkey, and as well as capital. And in center Ankara, there's a park called Kulu Park, which means park with the swans. Yeah? And when the coup happens in 1980, the top general says, okay, I want these swans, some of them, I want to put them in my in other park that I'm going to build. So he takes some of the swans and he puts them in this new park that he built. And you know what? The swans try to escape from that pond to their original pond. And while they're doing that, while they were flying, they hit the high building, so they committed suicide. And in order to stop them from flying, top general, after this incident, orders every swan to be operated. And there is a certain bone in a wing of a swan that keeps them flying. So they took from every swan this certain bone. So therefore, right now in Turkey, no swan in a park can fly. So I thought this was very symbolic for a military coup. They take a certain bone from your wing, so you don't fly. And you know what happens? You forget that you can fly after a while. And somebody has to remind you that. You see? So this was about, this novel was about, but because of this story.
And from the coup kids.
Yeah, it's like 2 8-year-olds. I was 8-year-old when the coup happened. So I wrote, with the perspective of 2 kids, both 8 years old.
And are you writing anything now?
No, I'm not.
You're not. So enjoying yourself in Bosnia.
Pretending to be the pop star all around. Yeah.
You get many interviews from the
This fame is killing me.
But we are in Bosnia, and one of your characters says if people forget their own bread, how to make their own bread, they forget their history and their gods. So how did you find the Bosnian food? Coming from all the way.
Well, I like this complete touristic stuff, but I love the bread here. And as far as I know, there's a Croatian bread called sin, bread of sin or something. It's so good that it can be, it should be sinful to eat that bread. About the bread, very good. In Tunisia, they don't make Tunisian bread. Did you know that? This is the horrible side of colonialism. They do baguette, French baguette. But then Tunisian food, you have to eat it with, like this. So you cannot do French baguette, you cannot do the movement. So they go through these funny scenes with French baguette in Tunisia. And I always thought, okay, this is what colonialism looked like. That's why if you cannot do your own bread, you cannot have your own God.
And Bosnia has their own bread.
Obviously.
Yes.
And many gods.
Thank you very much, Ece. Maybe we should get some questions. If you have, we have the microphone here. If you don't, that's fine. We still like you. Is there anyone? Yes, we got that.
Okay.
Are you going to speak in English or?
In English, yeah, sure. Some of my Turkish friends, they told me you should come to see her. So they're very passionate about you. My first question is, how important are books in today's Turkish society? I mean, how much influence they have on society? That's what, you know, I have to admit I didn't still read your book, but I read a lot about Orhan Pamuk, and how that is, you know, what is the real influence? Is there an influence? It does, you know, these people from the politics, are they disturbed or not? They don't pay attention to it.
Well, there is this caricature in Turkey. I love it. A girl goes to the bookstore. This is something new. A girl goes to the bookstore. She asks for the price of the book, and the bookseller says it's 15 lira. And then she goes, oh, that's expensive. And the bookseller says, but a photo of the book with a coffee, coffee cup, it's 5 lira only for Instagram. So it is, people, I really wonder if people read the books or you just take photos of the books with the coffee cups or whatever, with their feet. But you know what, there is, I've been telling this earlier to someone else. There's a lot of politics in this book. You know, by the way, very dangerous politics, if you ask me. But then, books are for elite. So I think political authorities don't really mind if the elites among themselves read things, unless the ordinary people know about them. So if you're a journalist, you can reach the ordinary people, the big crowds, and you are really dangerous. But if you become a novelist, they don't care about you anymore. Ah, she's a novelist now. But then I think there is a there's an interesting part to that as well. When you write a novel, it's happening in this obscure space where nobody knows if you're talking about real things or you're just making up stupid stuff. So it's a protection for those who want to write politics as well, I think.
One short question. I was always wondering, these guys in power, like, president, prime ministers, and you were a journalist, you might know, do they read any books?
We used to have a Minister of Culture. Do you remember her?
I mean, did you ever ask them that direct question? What is the latest book you read?
Yeah. You know what? When the world is dealing with Trump or Boris Johnson, the best of us, the British people, are dealing with Boris Johnson right now. So, I think neoliberalism has stupefied the entire planet to a degree that even British people don't know if their votes are counted before the referendum, and they ended up having the Brexit now. So, obviously, politics is not for really, smart people. It's for ordinary people, but while you're talking to ordinary people, you start to think in an ordinary way, most probably. All these philosopher or literature people who have been running the world, it's over. It's over. That era is over. Now we ended up with different kind of politicians, and I don't think they would read any books, except for somebody summarize them in 3 sentences.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have more questions? Yeah, you have got that.
Hello, and welcome to Sarajevo. I also come from Turkey, and I've been living here for the last 8 years.
Lovely.
So, my question is about short stories. Have you ever tried your hand in short story writing? because it seems that you're full of wonderful stories,
Thank you.
which can be told in short episodes. And a novel, I know, it's a string of short stories connected together under a plot, but for me, short stories are always, my favorite. So that's why I'm asking this question.
I'm not intelligent enough to write a short story. Seriously. It requires another type of intelligence. Although, I love these, what is the word for the extremely short stories? What is the word? Snap stories or something? I forgot the word now. I was trying to write something, a woman and man, approaching each other by the seaside, and then they cannot decide where to go, and at the end they look at each other and commit suicide by drowning themselves in the water. That kind of, haiku sort of short story. I think my plan is to write haikus, if you want to know, after I'm 60 or so. Most probably I'll be very bored with everything, so I will like a girl blonde in the park. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. But I understand you with this, I would call it haiku way of thinking, which is amazing to me as well. Thank you. We're done.
I think we have two more, Ece, if you're okay.
Hi, I'm a filmmaker and journalist from Canada, originally from Somalia. My question was, do you feel like you're making a greater impact as a writer than you are as a journalist?
I didn't hear the question, I'm sorry.
Me either.
I didn't hear the question.
Can you hear now?
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to ask, do you feel like you're making a greater impact as a novelist rather than a journalist?
Oh, yes I do. I'm like, I don't feel like I'm making a great impact, by the way, but then, it's a deeper thing. The effect is deeper. As a journalist, there are certain roles that you can play, and those roles are for younger people, I think. I'm too old now to play the journalist. And when you write stories, it lasts longer, and you reach to those people who look like you, not like your role, let's say, not like the role you're playing. So, yeah, I think novels, stories have greater impact in terms of meeting, connecting people.
We are here through fiction, through novels.
Well, we don't know that. Maybe people are curious about what's happening in Turkey. That might be the case as well.
And we have a question from Damir.
Ja ću govoriti na bosanskom, ako možete prevesti.
Just a minute.
Koji su malo delikatnije od ovo što želim da pitam. Mi smo objavili ovaj roman pod imenom žene koje kuću u čvoru, a izdavač iz Hrvatske ga je preveo kao žene koje pušu u čvoru. Mi smo dugo tražili sa prijateljicama i u suradnicama pravi glagol, jer je jako velika razlika kad kažete puhnuti, to ide preko usana, kad kažete huknuti ili jako iz duše. Ja bih volio da na to odgovoriš, jer smo pogodili, da kažemo kuću u čvoru. A drugo pitanje, ne mogu da izbjegnem, a da nije pomalo političko, da našem festivalu nedostaje gost kojeg smo također pozvali u programu Turska u fokusu, a to je pisac Mario Levi. On nije mogao napustiti Tursku, vjerojatno iz nekih razloga građanske poslušnosti. Želim tebe pitati da li bi ti došla da si bio u Turskoj, da li bi mogla doći, s obzirom da si bio u tom trenutku kad te poziv zatekao van Turske. Da li bi bio u stanju da dođeš i da li bi htjela doći, da li bi to graničilo sa građanskom poslušnosti ili sa nečim drugim.
The translation, as for translation, I'm pretty sure it's perfect, and the title of the book has been a real issue everywhere, like in Germany, in France, in Greece, in China, everywhere it's an issue. I found this title, which is, somehow very difficult to translate. So I'm very fine with the title, and I'm, telling my English publisher, thanking my English publisher for keeping the original title and so on and so forth. As Mario Levy, I'm very sorry that he's not here. He's an academic, and due to the state of emergency, there's a ban on travels for academic people. And I was in Turkey actually. I came from Turkey to Zagreb. I stayed in Zagreb for 2 days and then came here. Of course there's tension because it's a state of emergency. But then everything was completely, not normal, but very close to normal. It was just too crowded. It was taking more time for passport, people, the officers to check passports and so on. But no, it wouldn't have been a civil disobedience if I tried to leave the country. Everybody is traveling at the moment, except for the academics and the state officials. It is a pity that you didn't see Mario Levy. He's such an amazing person and a writer. And yeah, I wish he was here. Thank you.
Okay, maybe I should ask.
Hello, also I wish you welcome to Sarajevo. And I will ask you something that is important to me, and that is related to position of women in Turkey. And I must say that maybe although I consider myself to be a cosmopolitan, a leftist and everything, I have certain and the possibilities, for women in your country, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I'm answering now. Well, I'm very sorry, but it's a class issue. So we have to talk about the upper class and the lower class, because women issue is also a class issue. If you're coming from an aristocratic family, if you're coming from a rich family, you have no certain things doesn't apply to you. You don't have any most of the problems, you don't go through them. Whereas if you're an ordinary woman, working woman, going on the bus at 6 o'clock in the morning, coming home after dark, you have different problems. But then, due to the creeping conservatism in Turkey, for the last decade especially, and due to the complications of politics, women and children are the ones who are affected most. It's not only women, children also, animals also, which means the parts of the society who are fragile, who are vulnerable, are affected most from the political complications of the country. If you ask me, in a country where brotherhood is broken, whereas in Bosnia it happened, there was a civil war, and in Turkey it's broken in a different way, they are looking around to kill some witches. There's been a incredible rise in women killings in Turkey, and it's not only a women issue, but also a political issue, if you ask me. There's a immense, dramatic devastation in terms of societal peace, and therefore, what happens is they kill women because they can kill women. Basically, they kill children because they rape children because they can rape children. So, when the sense of law, when the sense of justice becomes fading away because of certain things, the first thing that happens to a society is they go after women, they go after children, they go after animals. Because they cannot protect themselves unless there's a sense of justice, there's a sense of law in a society. Thank you very much.
I think we don't have any more questions. Thank you very much. Do we?
Okay, no.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ece.
Thank you, Nermin. Thank you for coming. And thank you. Thank you. I hope you liked it.